Welcome back. We're joined now by Amanda Littman, who is the co-founder and president of the group Run for Something, here to discuss young progressives and the future of the Democratic Party. Welcome to Washington Journal.
Thank you for having me.
So can you tell us a bit about Run for Something, what your group does, and what led you to found it?
So Run for Something was born of the ashes of the 2016 election. I had worked for Hillary for 2 years and a number of campaigns before that. And shortly after the loss in 2016, I started hearing from people I'd gone to high school and college with. Hey, Amanda, you're the only person I know that works in politics. If I want to run for office, what do I do? Who do I call? And at the time, there wasn't somewhere you could go if you were a young person newly excited about politics that wanted to do more than vote and more than volunteer. So I reached out to a whole bunch of people with an idea. What if we solved this problem? One of those became my co-founder, Ross Morales-Ricchetto. We wrote a plan, we built a website, and we launched Run for Something on Trump's first inauguration day, committed to recruiting and supporting young, diverse leaders running for state and local office all across the country. We thought it would be small. We'd get maybe 100 people in the first year. We had 1,000 in the first week, and as of today, we're up to more than 215,000 young people all across the country who've raised their hands to say they want to run. And we've helped elect more than 1,500 millennials and Gen Z to state and local office in 49 states plus DC.
And have you seen any of those folks make it up to the federal level yet?
We have, which has been one of the coolest parts of doing this work. You might be familiar with Run for Something alum like Representative Sarah McBride from Delaware, Representative Jasmine Crockett from Texas, Representative Yasamin Ansari from Arizona, Emily Randall from Washington, Suha Subramanyam from Virginia, and of course, a number of our folks who are running for higher office this year and into next, like Mallory McMorrow running for United States Senate in Michigan, Zach Walz running for United States Senate in Iowa, and about more than a dozen at this point who are running for Congress for 2026.
You're also the president of Run for Something Civics, which works to end the, as you say, gerontocracy. Can you explain the gerontocracy and what this group does?
The gerontocracy is a government for and by older leaders. I often get a lot of pushback on the work Run for Something does. Our PAC explicitly focuses on endorsing candidates 40 and under, but young people are wildly left out of government. The average age in the House is 58, 59. In the Senate, it's 63, 64, but the median American is about 39 years old. And we know that when young people are in the rooms where decisions are made, the outcomes are different. We've seen this happen in practice when a young Run for Something alum, Burhan Azim, took a seat on the Cambridge City Council. He transformed zoning policy for renters in particular, passing some of the most ambitious housing policy in the country, making it a city where young people could stay and live and grow families. It is so, so important to bring younger voices into office. So Run for Something Civics specifically is our 501c3 arm meant to really educate and inspire young people to see themselves in public office.
One younger person in progressive politics who's recently gotten a lot of attention is Zohran Mamdani, who won the New York City primary. How significant of a win do you think that is, and what can Democrats or other progressives learn from that in terms of races moving forward?
I think Mamdani's win in New York, which I'm a proud New York City voter, is transformative for the Democratic Party because it models a new way forward for us. He brought out an entirely different electorate. Folks 34 years old and younger were the largest share of the voting pool in that Democratic primary. If we want to get young people to vote, we need to give them someone to vote for. And beyond that, since Mamdani won about 2 weeks ago, Run for Something has seen nearly 9,000 young people raise their hands to say they want to run. This is the biggest organic candidate recruitment surge in the lifetime of the organization. As many people have signed up with us since Zohran won on June 24th, than after Trump won in 2024. It is a monumental sea shift in how people can see themselves in power. We're going to see more young leaders who can communicate authentically and passionately about the issues that really affect people's lives, things like cost of housing, cost of childcare. Not every candidate is going to be running on the same exact ideology, but we're going to see young leaders step up and really talk about the issues that matter on the platforms where young people get their information.
Those may have been some of the issues that Mr. Mamdani was running on, but that's certainly not the narrative that's being pushed about him by especially the White House. I want to play a clip of White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt earlier last week talking about Mr. Mamdani.
The Democrats are doubling down on craziness and radical policies that are undermining the very fabric of our country. Just look at the Democrat nominee for New York City Mayor, Zohran Mamdani. He's a Democrat socialist, really a communist, who proudly calls to defund the police, peddles anti-Semitism, praises pro-Hamas groups, wants Israel abolished, and believes wealthy Americans should not exist. Those are his words, just as recent as this weekend. Meanwhile, under President Trump's leadership, Republicans are fighting tirelessly for everyday, middle-class, working Americans who re-elected this president, and we're carrying out a revolution of common sense.
Are you at all concerned about this narrative?
No. Republicans have always found a way to make whoever the Democratic leader is, or any Democratic leader, sound like a socialist or an extremist. They called Joe Biden a socialist. This is the kind of playbook they are always going to return to. And I think the Democratic Party needs to not be afraid of finding leaders who have really strong value systems and understanding that if we have leaders who stand for something, of course, people are going to disagree with them. That doesn't mean we should shy away from taking risks and getting exciting candidates who can bring people out. I'm not worried about this at all. They were always going to find someone to attack.
We're going to be taking questions from our callers in just a bit. For Democrats, that number is 202-748-8000. For Republicans, 202-748-8001. And for Independents, 202-748-8002. Before we get to the callers, I want to broaden the conversation to the Democratic Party more broadly. How would you characterize the state of the party at the moment?
A little lost, but we are finding our way. And I am cautiously optimistic, if only because I have seen the surge of young people saying, I don't want to let this party define me. I want to define this party. You know, since Trump won back in November, we've had nearly 60,000 people raise their hands to say they want to run, telling us proudly, I am done waiting my turn. I am done being told it is not my time to lead. So I think we're going to see these candidates step up. They're going to be running for city council, state legislature, school board, library board, all across the country into this year and well into next. And they're going to be redefining the party in the process. So yeah, things are a little bleak, but I think the future of our party can be bright if we're willing to do the work for it.
What do you think of Elon Musk's announcement that he plans to start his own political party?
Godspeed. Starting a third party is very hard. Ballot access is really difficult. He's got a lot of money, so he can do it. And I don't think that most people share his ideology around the way that we should benefit the rich. So Godspeed and good luck.
We have a question from Mary in Boston who says, please ask your guest to make the expansion of Medicare to all a campaign goal among young American candidates.
I love the ambition. I think for Run for Something candidates specifically, we work on state and local offices only. So we don't have a policy litmus test. Most of our candidates are not running for offices where that would even be a possibility for them to do. But we really encourage people to think about how can you make healthcare more affordable using whatever levers you might have in your control. And I think it's going to be an exciting part of the hopefully 2028 presidential primary where we'll really get to redefine what our party believes in.
Anne is in New York on our line for Democrats. Good morning, Anne.
Good morning, Amanda. Thank you so much for what you are doing. As a lifelong Democrat, I'm going to be 67 next birthday. I think young people are the future of the Democratic Party. Nobody my age or older should be president. I think your platform needs to be affordability and basic human decency. We tried to set up democracy in the Middle East, and that didn't work because they're not wired that way. Hopefully, autocracy won't work in America because we are not wired that way. Cal Thomas, who was on earlier, who is certainly not a liberal icon, even he had difficulty with us building concentration camps and disappearing people off the street. I feel like if you can appeal to our basic human decency and go hard with affordability, you have a winning message. Thank you again.
I think you are spot on. It's something that so many of our candidates are running on, especially because they're running for the kinds of offices that can really affect how affordable it is to live somewhere. Things like housing are decided by city councils and municipal governments. Things like childcare are often shaped on the state legislative level. There is so much work that we can do in state and local government, and that we have to do in state and local government over the next couple of years to make these places where people can stay and thrive and survive. And I am so proud that so many Run for Something candidates are really championing those issues.
Chuck is in Syracuse, New York, on our line for Republicans. Good morning, Chuck.
Good morning. So I want to thank our guests for promoting young people to run for something. They are running for something in progressive-led cities like Chicago. They're running for their lives. We had 50 people shot, 6 people fatally in 4th of July violence. They're running for their lives in Louisiana, New Orleans, Kansas City, Queens. They're running for their lives. So thanks to people like Amanda, we have young people running for something. If they want to join a winning movement, they join Young America's Foundation.
I will say there's definitely one reinterpretation of Run for Something. Every Run for Something candidate works to reduce gun violence. Every Run for Something candidate works to tackle these issues in the way that makes sense for the offices they're running for. We have noticed, and I think you will be sure to check the stats here. Gun violence rates and homicide rates and murder rates are much higher in red-run states, in conservative-run states. And in places like Chicago, it's because the guns are coming from places like Indiana, where gun laws are much, much laxer. So that's why we're so proud to support candidates who want to make streets safer for people of every age.
Derek is in Lakeland, Minnesota, on our line for Independence. Good morning, Derek.
Good morning, C-SPAN. Good morning, America. Okay, first thing is, you worked for Hillary Clinton's campaign.
Mm-hmm.
One of the worst candidates, most pathetic candidates I've ever seen, other than Kamala Harris. And if you want to get young people when they're young, they don't really have experience, and you want to keep their college and their educational institution ideology going, then that's the organization you're going to try to pick these ignorant people from. So good luck with that. Go America.
Thank you for the best wishes. We have found that the best way for young people to get experience in governance is the same way that everyone gets experience as politicians or in governance, is to run for local office, to win, and to really prove that they know what they're doing. They are incredible at connecting with community. They're showing up in places others don't, and they're making the case to voters one by one. We trust voters to make those decisions, and they are winning. So it's working. Thank you for the best wishes.
This argument about experience came up in the New York City primary as well.
It did, and I think for us, we really look at what kind of experience matters. For Zohran Mamdani, he'd been a state legislator for 4 or 5 years. That is meaningful governance experience. A number of the candidates he was running against, including Andrew Cuomo, yes, had years of experience as governor, but what he had done with that experience was assault women, corruption, kill seniors in nursing homes, have to resign in disgrace, being called out by many of the people who later endorsed him, bullied people. That's not the kind of experience we need in elected office. It matters what that experience looks like.
Larry is in Nacogdoches, Texas, on our line for Democrats. Good morning, Larry.
Yes, I think Amanda, what she's doing. And
Larry, can you turn down the volume on your TV? It's a little hard to hear you.
I'd like to thank Amanda for what she's doing, and it's been a long time waiting. We need more young people in politics. We really do. So keep doing what you're doing. And we need more people in politics, because I talk to a lot of young people, and they know more about politics than some of the people up there in office, especially the one we got for president. So keep doing what you're doing. I got your back. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate that. If any of your viewers want to help what we're doing, runforsomething.net/donate is where you go to chip in.
Walt is in Indiana on our line for Republicans. Good morning, Walt.
Amanda, what would be your top 3 agenda items for the national government?
So run for something doesn't work on federal elections, so we don't think that much about what the national government should be doing. But I do think every elected official at every level should be thinking about what you could do to tackle cost of living. And that in particular means focusing on housing, especially for first-time buyers and renters, for people who are entering the housing market in a way that it has never existed before. Childcare. The cost of childcare is outrageous and it is drowning people. It is making women leave the workforce, mostly women leave the workforce. It is making it almost impossible for people to make their careers happen or to live where they want to live. And then I would think more broadly about transportation, thinking about helping folks, helping build communities where you can walk to the places you want to be, where we're less reliant on cars, where public transit is a bigger part of these infrastructure systems, because we know commutes make people miserable. Car culture can make it really hard for you to care for your loved ones, to be with your friends. So those are things that I would encourage every elected official at every level to tackle to make life better.
Your most recent book is When We're in Charge, The Next Generation's Guide to Leadership, which came out in May. What's the message of your book, and why did you want to put this out now?
When We're in Charge is the Next Generation's Guide to Leadership. It's a book really about leadership for millennials and Gen Z. And in it, I make the case that it is possible to be an effective, authentic, compassionate, boundary leader who treats people well and gets things done. And to do so in this moment, both in politics, yes, it's about politics, but also it's about work, it's about community, it's about our relationships with each other. It is so much more than politics. And I thought it was important to put out right now in particular, because we are all experiencing how it feels to live under a leader, and many of us have worked under leaders who treat people like crap, who do not care about how you are experiencing their leadership, who aren't goal-oriented, who are meandering from one thing to another, who are ego-driven, not team-driven. And I wanted to put out a playbook for those who wanted to do it differently. And I've loved hearing from young people and older folks who have read it, who have said, I have never seen myself reflected in a leadership book before. This is the first time I've ever felt like someone understands what it's like to be in charge in this moment. So I love hearing from our readers, and you can get it wherever you get your books.
Kevin in St. Petersburg, Florida asks via text, why are you recruiting progressives only? There are young conservatives. If you were legitimate, you'd be anybody run for something. Are you funded by George Soros?
Remember Something exists to recruit and support young, diverse progressives to run for local office, because I think that's what we need more of to get better government and better leadership. We are grateful for every single one of our funders across the space, ranging from, I think at this point, almost 50,000 individual givers who've given whatever they can. There are organizations out there that exist to support young conservatives. Good luck to them. I think our candidates are going to beat theirs nearly every time, but Godspeed.
Maria is in New York on our line for independence. Good morning, Maria.
Yes, hi, good morning. I just want to, first of all, I'm over 60, and I have a 25-year-old who's in college, finishing college. I just want to thank you young people for taking the baton and moving forward with improving the quality of care that people give each other in this country. As you said, I agree with you 100% that it's important that we exist as a community, not divided by terms of skin color, financial levels, or anything to that effect. One of the things I notice when people call in, and it's really very sad, is that they constantly demean other folks for no other reason other than what their ideology is. That needs to stop, because it says a lot about this country. And one of the other things I'm going to say before I hang up is I love young people. They're actually smarter than more than 50% of the people in this country, adults. They read better. They have more of a global perspective on life and global communities, and we need that. That's how this country moves forward. I am sick of us trying to exist in the dark ages. I applaud you, young lady, and I wish you the best of luck. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. And I will say, if you want to be inspired, if you want to feel hope, if you want to see optimism in action, look to a young person running for local office. This is someone who cares enough to change their career, change their life, to ultimately change their community, and I think change the world. They are doing a brave and hard thing that is even braver, requires more courage now than ever before. And they're willing to do it because they love their community enough to fight for it. So I agree with you. I think young people are stepping up to lead and are going to transform the world in the process.
What does your training look like for new candidates in terms of helping them fundraise, or what kind of information are you giving them?
So everyone who signs up at runforwhat.net to tell us they're interested in running gets invited to one of our introduction conference calls. The next one we have is July 15th, where we're actually kicking off a whole new pipeline program. So depending for you to help figure out what to do next, need help figuring out how to find what office to run for, how to file to get on the ballot, how to write a campaign plan, we've got all of that for you. We work with hundreds of partners across the country, both national, state, and local, to make sure that candidates can get the resources they need. Once you have actually filed to get on the ballot, you can apply for Run for Something's endorsement. We've endorsed more than 3,000 campaigns across the lifetime of the organization. And if you're endorsed, our staff will work directly with your team. Whatever it is you need, we will help you find. We help connect you to funders, we help get you press, we help promote you across social media, we connect you to organizations that can get you volunteers and more money. We connect you to other folks running and who have run in the past, because running for office is very lonely. And endorsed candidates are who we track through to election day. So we stick with you, win or lose. We are in this for the long haul. That's how we've built such incredible mindset, and we're able to stick with them through that process too, as emotional support and as part of their team.
Jeff is in Indianapolis, Indiana, on our line for Democrats. Good morning, Jeff.
Good morning, ladies. How you doing, Amanda?
Doing great. What's on your mind?
I just want to say we need more like you, people like you and Jasmine Crockett and AOC and Maxwell Frost. And when I hear guys, you young folks talk, it gives me a lot of hope. And I think one of the problems is it's not so much about policy, it's about culture. This past election, I always did say that Kamala didn't lose. Bigotry and misogyny won. Yes, many groups voted against their best interests: Latinos, Arab Americans, white women. I mean, even after Roe v. versus Wade was overturned, they overwhelmingly voted for that individual. And union members, what are we going to do to turn that around? And also, when Republicans, it really gets me when they call Democrats communists, but as soon as you call them a fascist or a Nazi, they grab their pearls, So conservative is just another word for coward. Amanda, keep up the good work. You're doing great.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I have a comment here on X where someone said some of the most significant barriers for younger candidates is the astronomical cost of running for office. Would you support publicly funded elections?
I think we got to explore all kinds of levers to make it easier for people to run. That includes campaign finance reform, publicly funded elections. We also need to raise the pay of our elected officials, especially on the state and local level. Most of these offices are barely paid, if at all, but they function like full-time jobs outside of their full-time job. So we have to find all kinds of ways to make it easier for normal people to run for these positions. Run for Something candidates have been at the forefront of making these structural changes when they win, but we need more of it.
Chaz is in Wisconsin on our line for Republicans. Good morning, Chaz.
Good morning, Amanda. So you're out of New York City, correct? You're a New York City voter.
I personally am, yes, but the organization works everywhere, and we have staff everywhere.
So, are you a strong supporter of Mamdani?
I was proud to put him on my ballot a couple weeks ago.
What happens? Okay, let's say he wins. What happens when the rich people in New York City decide that they don't agree with all their taxes getting raised and paying for all these services that you want to implement, and they decide, well, we're going to move to Florida, we're going to move to Texas, we're going to move all throughout the country. Who pays for that then? The middle class? Is that how that's going to trickle down? Now the middle class is taxed through the roof?
Rich people have always claimed they want to leave New York City every time a new mayor has been elected, and they never do it. In fact, polling about folks who have left New York City in the last 5 or 10 years has been disproportionately people leaving because the city is unaffordable. It's been middle class and working class New Yorkers who've said, I can no longer afford to buy a home here or to rent here or to put my kids in childcare here. If we want to make New York City a place where everyone of all income levels can live and stay and thrive, we need to tackle the affordability crisis. And I am confident that hopefully Mayor Mamdani is going to orient every part of the city government to tackle that in a meaningful way.
John is in Westboro, Massachusetts, on our line for Independence. Good morning, John.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
Congratulations. You got a good thing going on right now. As far as the messaging that you need to get out it's great because you are very respectful. You talk well, even when somebody is ridiculing you or something like that. You're nice to them and stuff, and that's awesome. But at the same time, they're not going to be that way towards you. So in the general election, it's going to be tough. You got to start explaining that they need a backbone and they need to fight. And that's basically just all I'm saying,
I agree with you. The Democratic Party needs to be made up of fighters, not folders. We need people who are willing to show up and put their bodies on the line, put their reputations on the line, put their careers on the line. I think that is something that young people are uniquely well situated to do because we understand that the crisis demands nothing less of us.
Andy says on X, as a Democrat, my only fear is the party makes a hard left while recruiting younger politicians. My opinion is get an all-inclusive young and old, just put someone in to win the seat. We have to get rid of this MAGA cult, brain dead politics and vote them out.
I think we have seen that younger leaders who can really connect to voters on the issues they care about, almost regardless of ideology, but really about focusing on the cost of living, can change the electorate in a way that Democrats can win. We see this in the New York Democratic primary. We have never seen an electorate as young as what we saw just a couple weeks ago in New York City. It is possible to take on tough fights and win with candidates who have a very strong sense of values. They don't all need to be all the way to the left in order to have that strong sense of core. But I have found that it is much easier when you do, because when you're trying to triangulate between, well, not them and not them, it's really hard to be yourself. So we want candidates who can really show up, connect on the issues, talk about the things that matter to people's lives. And of course, yes, tackle MAGA Republicans and beat them out of office, because we have seen what the kind of damage they will do when they take power. Just last week when they passed the bill, it is going to harm and kill people. We need to stop it.
Rick is in Lakeland, Florida, on our line for Democrats. Good morning, Rick.
Good morning. Good morning, Amanda.
Good morning.
Hey, so I heard you last time on C-SPAN. It really inspired me to fire up and try to run for something, and I was really, really inspired. But having said that, I just turned 41. So my question to you is, what do you tell people who might hear your message that are possibly have to run in the next election cycles, that maybe over 40 that are interested in running for something? Is that age limit a hard 40 or is that a soft 40?
So Run for Something's pipeline resources and almost everything we offer candidates is available to folks of all ages. So thank you for being interested in running. I imagine you signed up at runforwhat.net to look up what office you can run for. We have lots and lots of stuff for you, and we are launching more next week available for you to access regardless of your age. Now, our endorsement program is limited to candidates 40 and under. We had to set a hard limit somewhere. We really wanted to think practically about the challenges that young leaders face that are a little different than folks a little older or later in their careers, but that doesn't mean we don't think you shouldn't run. That just means we might not be the right group to endorse you. Many of our partners might be. So if you're on our email list, you're getting text messages from us, you will get materials about other orgs that might be the right fit for you.
Joe is in Tampa, Florida, on our line for Republicans. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning. Good morning. First off, I would like to say I'm actually motivated just listening to this dialogue, because following the passage of the One Big Beautiful Act, and the more I watched some of the folks' posture for whose fault it is. It got me thinking it's time for young folks to actually, lace up their boots and get running. So my question is, to what extent is the one big beautiful act going to change or motivate you more to make sure you basically align what you're running against with your messaging? Because right now, I think you saw how the minority leader on the Democratic side spent 9 hours debating against the bill, and ultimately the Republicans won. So how are you going to be able to counteract the fact that, let's face it, the Trump administration right now has both houses, and it's increasingly becoming very influential in the Supreme Court. So let's face it, the messaging right now is a big problem. And when you say progressive, I don't particularly see how that's going to attract the big voting bloc, as in the black voters. There's nothing really right now that I see that's being offered that's going to counteract what the Republican Party or the conservatives, for that matter, are doing. I'll just listen to your commentary. Thank you.
I think the bill that House Republicans and Senate Republicans passed and that Trump signed into office ultimately killed the American dream. It made it so that if you are a young person imagining a future where you could be a lawyer or a doctor or a veterinarian, you can no longer do that because of the caps on federal student loans. If you are someone who has come to this country and thought, I'm going to make a better future for my kids or my grandkids, that is no longer feasible. The bill that has supercharged funding for ICE and done nothing to tackle the housing crisis or the childcare crisis or the mental health crisis in this country, the bill that has done incredible damage and will do incredible damage to healthcare, to hospitals, to nursing homes. If you're watching this and you're thinking, well, maybe I'll get to move back in with my kids or my grandkids because the nursing home near me might close, as 1 in 4 nursing homes are expected to over the next couple of years, or the rural hospital that cares for me might not be able to exist in the next 5 years because of the cuts to Medicaid in this bill, we're not going to be able to afford to live where we want to live near you anyway. I think that this bill, unfortunately, tragically, is going to do incredible political harm to the Republican Party. It is going to hurt their voters the most. Now, that is an opportunity for Democrats to make the case on what we can offer that is better. And I think we have seen, especially with candidates who can really speak to cost of living issues, who can talk about tackling those crises I named, they can bring out voters who have not previously been seen or had seen themselves as part of the process. Folks talk about Black voters in particular. Zohran Mamdani won younger Black voters. That is a whole new generation of people who did not see themselves as part of the Democratic Party necessarily, who can find themselves in candidates who can speak to the problems they care about. This bill is horrifying, is going to do incredible damage, and it's a political opportunity for us, and we have to hold on to it with both hands and make it clear who's at fault and what we can do differently.
Bill is in Florida on our line for Independence. Good morning, Bill.
Good morning. I'm just calling to make a couple points. Mr. Mamdani in New York, listening to his comments, wherever economic freedom has been removed, political freedom is removed soon thereafter. Anywhere in the world that this has been tried, that's the outcome. And my second point is, it's interesting, there's a very liberal group in New York that goes back over 100 years. And when the Bolsheviks took power in the Soviet Union in 1918, many people from New York actually went to Russia. And obviously, I need not tell you how that all has worked out. And those are the only points. You can't have economic freedom. You can't have political freedom unless you have economic freedom.
We do not currently have economic freedom in New York City. This is a place that is outrageously expensive to live and to care for your kids. I have 2 kids in childcare. It is draining my savings to put them in daycare every day. It is outrageously expensive. Most people who want to live where they want to live and work where they want to work cannot afford to do so in New York City. We do not have economic freedom here. What I'm excited for is a mayor who's going to be focused on delivering that for us, who's going to be reorienting city government in a way that makes this a place that working New Yorkers of all income levels can stay and thrive, instead of what we currently have, which is a mayor bought and paid for by the government of Turkey and currently under Trump's thumb because of his indictments from the Justice Department. I will take someone committed to making this place more affordable over Eric Adams any day.
We have another comment we received via text. This one is from Teresa in Little Rock, Arkansas, who says, "Do you believe in forgiveness for college debt, paying for college education?"
I think we have to do all kinds of things to make higher education more affordable. We have to expand the number of colleges that exist and that can provide good education. We have to make tuition lower. You shouldn't have to take out hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt in order to be able to afford a degree. We also have to expand the kinds of ways in which we see viable paths for work for young people. College debt, student loan debt, yes, we should forgive it if that makes sense, but that doesn't solve the structural problem of how people have to take out those loans in the first place. So I think we need to get to the root cause of the problem.
Tom is in Newark, Ohio, on our line for Republicans. Good morning, Tom.
Oh, thank you for taking my call. You know, you Democrats, you have committed high treason when you flew in hundreds of thousands of illegals directly into liberal states and issued them driver's license, hoping to overwhelm our elections. Both Republicans and independents are aware that you used our taxpayer money to do this. You have committed high treason, which carries the death penalty. This DOJ and FBI will uphold their sworn oaths. Good luck to all of you.
Pretty sure high treason or any treason is what the January 6th rioters did when they tried to overturn the election in 2021. Not whatever conspiracy you just laid out there. I will say I think that there is so much to do to tackle our immigration crisis, but not the way that this government is doing it. They are disappearing people off the streets. They are deporting people to countries they don't live in. They are separating families. They are refusing to take accountability for it. And they're doing it with deep cruelty. So I hope that you, as a viewer of this, that's not what you support, because that would indicate a cruelty in your heart, which I hope you don't hold.
Tim is in Gassville, Arkansas, on our line for Independence. Good morning, Tim.
Yeah, good morning. Everything you claim you want was made worse when importing 20 million slaves. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris brought in all these people illegally. Like the other callers said, it was treasonous what they did. But if you want these things, for instance, housing, everything in this world is supply and demand. When you bring in 20 million more people, they have to live somewhere. Of course, the housing went up. There is something special about being an American, okay? And unfortunately, progressives and Democrats, they don't want America to be special. They want America to be the same as every other third world country out there. That's exactly what Mamdani promises to do. He promises to make New York a third world state by making everyone the same. All the same outcomes. Are going to have government grocery stores so we can go back to bread lines. The problem with progressivism is that it worships change and chaos over smart ideas, prudence. The reasons that conservatives want to conserve, they want to conserve the things that are right with this country, not tear it down just for the sake of running for something, or in the case of like Hillary Clinton, making your money, or Nancy Pelosi, making your money, or Joe Biden.
So, Tim, I want to let Amanda respond to some of the points that you've raised.
First, I will say I love America. That's why I'm doing everything I can and have done my entire life and career to make it a place where I can raise daughters who can have their own bodily autonomy, who can live and thrive and do whatever they want to do with their lives. Second, conservatives want to conserve. That's why they just cut millions of dollars out of Medicaid. They're going to kick 17 million people out of their health care. They're going to make it impossible for kids to be able to eat school lunches. They're going to kick kids off of SNAP, off of food stamps. They are destroying our higher education system, our healthcare system, our higher ed institutions. They are destroying communities one by one from within and making it impossible for the American dream to exist. That's not loving America. And to do so for their own profit. Sir, Trump's net worth has increased exponentially. You can literally buy dinner with the president at this very moment. You can give him crypto money. You can buy his perfumes, which I'm sure smell like crap. What are you talking about, sir? I am trying to be polite and respectful, but that is straight lunacy. But thank you for watching and thank you for calling in. I wish you the best.
Ice Fam is in Gastonia, North Carolina, on our line for Democrats. Good morning, Ice Fam. And can you turn down the volume on your TV and then go ahead with your point?
Okay, great. I don't have nothing on right now. Well, my point is just simply that I believe that the reason why you're losing a lot of black men to the Democratic Party is because of immigration, not the crazy Republican conspiracy theories, but simply because, you know, the whole time we agreed with immigration being out of control, but y'all kept saying it wasn't out of control. Also, y'all should do a segment on black immigration, because not all blacks are immigrants. A lot of us, like myself, was descendants of slaves, so we get offended when you keep saying that all blacks are immigrants. That's crazy, not to be black with immigrants. But I think, and another thing too, right, y'all lose black men, a lot of y'all, I say,
so Ice Fam, I don't believe that Amanda said that.
I ain't trying to hurt no feelings. Excuse me?
I don't think that Amanda said that about that all black people were immigrants.
I didn't accuse her of that. I did not accuse her of that. I said the Democratic Party in general. I'm not accusing her of anything. I don't know her.
Okay.
Excuse me. No. I'm saying in general, why y'all losing black people in general is because of those things y'all keep promoting, like women and men and women's sports. Black men are on board with stuff like that. Now, we don't love Donald Trump. Don't get me wrong. It's just that we won't come out and vote for the Democrats. We'll stay home. That's the point I'm trying to make. Now, we don't love the crazy Republican conspiracies, all that nonsense and white supremacy. That's crazy. But we also not on board with a lot of y'all stuff also. And I want to go ahead and let you go because that's all I'm saying. So a lot of stuff is too much. You have to slow down a little bit. So
I hear that, and I appreciate your thoughts here, sir. I will say I think that one of the best things we can do for Black men, Black women, for folks of all races and ages is commit to solving the affordability crisis so that you can live near your kids or your grandkids, so that you can work if you want to work, and that you can have the freedom to live outside of work if you don't have to or don't want to, that you can care for your family however you'd like. And I'm so proud that Run for Something candidates across the country are picking up that mantle and running with it and doing everything they can to make it cheaper and more affordable to live the kind of life you want.
Well, thank you so much to Amanda Littman, who is the co-founder and president of Run for Something and also author of the book, When We're in Charge, The Next Generation's Guide to Leadership. Thank you so much for joining Washington Journal.
Thank you for having me, and thanks to all of your callers.
Yes, thank you to everyone who called in for this edition of Washington Journal. We're going to be back tomorrow morning with another show starting at 7 a.m. Eastern. We hope you'll join us and have a great day.